Welcome to Get Real. We're so excited you're joining us today for another engaging conversation with independent financial advisors and the industry leaders who support them. Joining us today is Ryan Harbinson from ClearBridge Branding Agency. Ryan, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
We're glad to be here.
We're so happy to have someone sitting in the space next to us.
I'm the guy for that, don't worry.
There you go. So let's get right into ClearBridge.
Cool.
You know, we're here to talk marketing. That's all we're going to talk about today. So how does ClearBridge make a distinction when it comes to branding in that how you position your clients' brand in their mind?
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like part of it is understanding, how your brand is seen throughout, the many different channels that are out there, right? It's really having that consistent look and feel so that when people see you, they know who you are, right? And there's so many different ways to touch points out there with either using your email marketing lists or social or even search, TV, radio, video, billboards. I mean, it's trying to keep that all consistent, right? And I think part of that is understanding like little things like, do you have brand guidelines? Do you have colors that are approved and used? If you're going to use a logo that's white, this is what it looks like. If there's a logo with the color in it, these are the colors. These are, it's that consistent feel. So when people see that, they know you. Yeah. And I think people get lost in that, and you get a lot of companies and people within the organization that go rogue, or the classic trying to find the 200 by 200 image on the internet and trying to stretch it out for a golf outing.
Oh, I love those. Those look great.
Or doing ads that are just your business card because that's all you have.
Right.
So
we had a very interesting conversation when we spoke before the show, and it was the difference between positioning yourself to your customer and the marketplace, and your brand in the marketplace. What's the difference? Do people know the difference, do you think?
No, and I think we're going to touch on this a little bit, but it's really that difference between the culture content and the corporate content. It's also understanding who the audience is and what you're saying in front of them, and also the messaging. I mean, messaging is really huge, right? Yeah. And that's part of your brand as a whole, right? It's really like a 3-part process. So it's like the branding and creative, which is like how you're telling that story, right? What that message looks like and who that target audience is, and then the distribution of that messaging through all the different channels, right? And part of it is understanding who, what, and how, right? And being part of that is not always just doing that hard sell. Right. Like people don't want to be sold to.
No.
Like, did you know that? Act now, and there's ways to do that, and call to actions are good. And but part of that is getting people to know who you are, especially if you're like a solo FA or you have a small team. Right. It's more of getting to know who you are. Yes. Right. And building that trust, especially because you're dealing with my financials. That's a big leap.
I'm going to interject here because you had said something when we spoke, which I thought was so empowering, and so many advisors that we know don't do this. The getting into your local market and really understanding that there are so many opportunities that you can build a really successful practice, serve your clients in a manner which is of value to you, and you do not need to be national. You don't need to be the fancy guy who's got the client in Arizona or Florida or fill in the blank.
Unless it happens organically,
of course.
Which a lot of it does.
And if
always
you want
shoot at the
to,
hip kind of a thing, right? But like be a hunter and gatherer kind of thing.
Yeah, but doing the local ads, really capitalizing on the Chamber of Commerce, getting into your local newspapers.
Well, I think part of that too is like, especially if you're running like on the chamber scenes and you're doing like the small newsletter, things like that, and we talked about this before, right? Like, so it's understanding the audience that you're trying to get in front of, the common interest of your clients as a whole, and obviously there's people that might not have it, but a large majority might have it. And there was a group of lawyers that wanted to start a podcast, and we talked about this before. And they were like, oh, let's start a podcast about law.
No.
Yeah, nobody cares.
No one's listening.
Nobody cares, right? I mean, yes, some people will, but that's not the audience you want. So they went through, they did a quick synopsis, and they realized that the majority of their clients love golf. So they made a golf podcast and they crushed it. And because of that, they brought in more people because of who they were. And they said, oh, these guys are lawyers. I mean, in the world that we all live in, I always want people to go, so what is it that you do? Because I don't even want to talk about the business. I want you to realize that, hey, I'm someone that you can trust, that
Right.
I like what I do. Obviously, I'm here for a reason, and let's discuss opportunities to grow together. And it's the same thing in that. I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with being a sponsor for the baseball team
Absolutely
and the
not.
soccer team, and spend $1,000 and get a banner on the back wall and all
Right.
that. But also, don't put like Steve Jones, financial advisor, right? Like find the niche and the things that, like, if you're a beer guy or you love planting flowers, like be the woman that is the flower lady, or the guy that's the beer guy
Yeah.
that also is a financial advisor.
Correct.
And understand that you are branding yourself as X, and the common interest that you are letting people know will drive those similar interested people into you.
And that's the whole point of marketing, right?
Yeah, it
it's
is.
that personal connection, the emotional connection,
Correct.
right? You're solving for a need. We know that. That's the ultimate. But it's, do I like you as a person? Like, what are you
Great.
showing me outside of what you do for a living that I connect with?
Exactly. Like if I'm a whiskey guy, right? I'm gonna get a bunch of bourbon and whiskey, and I'm gonna do whiskey and wealth. And today we're gonna talk about
great
this,
idea.
that, and the other.
Look
For
at
the
that. You've
viewers.
just given everybody a great idea.
Right? That's just how it is, right? So I mean, there's ways to do it.
Call
right?
Ryan now. That
Yeah.
offer
Hey, how you
expires
doing?
in
All
20
right.
minutes.
Buy one, get one half off.
That's right.
But the authenticity is really the overwhelming message here.
Correct.
Because, and we do say, if you're a craft beer dude, and you're going after the champagne caviar client,
Boom. Ain't gonna happen.
it's not going to happen.
Right.
You're always going to have a mismatch.
Or
You're
it-
not authentic.
Right, it may, but it will be a very difficult relationship to
100%.
navigate because it all comes down to you as a person.
Correct.
And your values. It
Correct.
all sort of
And
funnels through that.
you're also in an industry where there's a little bit of competition,
Yes.
Just
right?
a little bit.
Yes.
And that's part of it. And it's, patience over greed is a great mentality. Remember, there's a low percentage of people that make it past 5 years. So if you've made it past 5 years, don't just call your clients to be like, hey, it's time for our annual meeting.
No.
Like FA stuff, like database entry stuff is killer. Personal database stuff, I mean, it's little stuff. It's
is.
very similar to the realtors, like realtors that close a job, right? Like, just send people a birthday card. Like, have your assistants just be on that. Be like, all right, well, who's getting birthday cards this week? Boom, 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 and
Right.
just that little bit of touch, that little bit of outreach, it goes a long way because your clients, right, are your best salespeople.
They are your salespeople.
Always.
That's just
Always.
how it works. So
Right.
if I'm in a thing and I just got married, me and my wife, and we're young and we're da-da-da, and I find out, and then they're gonna go, hey, you guys got a lot of money for the wedding. Like, do you have an advisor? They're like, well, I don't know. They're like, talk to Bob, talk to Lori. She's great. Love him. That's
Right.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, our market that watches Get Real is predominantly the independent financial advisor, right? And more times often than not, unfortunately, they're responsible for their marketing, right? Especially for those solo practitioners or those smaller firms.
Yeah.
So let's talk about brand. I mean, what are some of the things they should consider when thinking about getting their brand out there? And that's a significant job. That's like a full-time job in and of itself,
It
or
is.
it can be. What do they need to consider?
It's a brain
I mean,
drain
what are
for
those
them.
2-3 things like you have to do this?
Okay, a couple things. So one is don't overthink content. Okay? Some content is better than no content.
Yes.
All right? Yes, I understand there's rules and regulations, and you can do this and you can't do that, but there's still ways to do it, right? It can be as simple as, good morning, area that I'm in. Got my coffee, little bit of cream, little bit of sugar. How about you? Boom, right? Content is king, engagement is queen, right? So if you can't, get that analysis by paralysis. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I'm just not good at content. I don't want to be in front of the camera. Get that. get involved in the conversation there, okay? Find out what's going on, right? Tag people. Put your 2 cents in. Like, comment, share, all the above. That stuff goes a long way. Third, share everybody else's stuff.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that's easy.
Super easy. I know that you, right here, I know that you go on 5 or 6 different websites every morning. What's going on in the market, who's doing what, what's going who. Just share that stuff out to the public.
Right.
Become someone that is an expert in the field of X, Y, or Z.
And you're sharing content that your client or prospective client may not have access to.
100%.
And as an advisor, if you're finding an article that's talking about the market in a way that you would love to express that, but your content is not strong there, here's where you can express your voice
Exactly.
easily.
And I say, don't do a cold share, right? Don't just paste it and put it out. Put a little bit of your 2 cents
Say
and share it out.
something.
And they're like, well, all the stuff that I subscribe to is paid for, and there's a blockade with a paywall. Okay, well, write a quick summary of the article that you just wrote and put that content out there, right? And then what you can do is, if you're doing email blasts and you're creating your own content, so just save those articles. Like, if you're not like sending just fun insider info articles, like what's going on, the trends and that stuff, keeping people up to date and sending it out and touching base on your people, it's free content.
I'd also argue that depending on where you live in the country, which of course would be nowhere, you're not living under a rock. We're entering into the summer season, the gardening season, if you like to garden.
Great.
If you love the local vegetables, show a picture of a family member who's just picked, the fresh strawberries. You're going to get a lot more likes, hits, love-its on you
Totally.
sharing something like that that's really personal than you will about the market. And that authenticity.
And then you just end every video with the same thing. And remember, we're always growing green over here.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think what's important for folks to remember is that if you're out of sight, you're out of mind.
100%.
So if you're not
First to mind,
constantly-
live in the feed.
Yeah,
That's
if you're
how
not
you do it.
constantly popping up, it's, we do quite a bit of marketing for our business, because if you're not doing that, people are going to forget about you.
You disappear.
You're not a huge
Into the
brand.
abyss.
Let's admit it, right? So this is a great conversation, Ryan. Stick
So
with
fast.
us. Yes, always. Stick with us. We'll be back after a quick break. Welcome back to Get Real, where we're having a fascinating conversation about marketing with Ryan Harbinson. So Ryan, let's continue the thought process, right? Out of sight, out of mind. You've got to be in that feed. You've got to just be putting yourself out there. And I think maybe the hesitancy isn't that I can't find content, it's I don't want to be vulnerable.
I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. To add
Combination of all those things.
Add those into the mix of your response here, because marketing is a huge aspect of their budget.
Yep.
They feel, generally, in our experience, that you need to have a lot of money. And you certainly need to have a lot of time. I think you're the expert certainly, but what I would suggest is that you need to have a plan that you commit to.
Correct.
And a plan that looks maybe for 18 months forward.
All right, so that's a couple things in one, right? So first and foremost, there's there's your internal side, there's your external side, right? And it's dividing those into categories, right? So what does that look like? So on the internal side is that your social, right? And what's that social look like? Are you on, ready? YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, and the list goes on and on, right? For that stuff, that gets overwhelming. And I understand that. There's tons of things, right? So what I always tell people is pick 1, 2, or 3 and just do it right. Look, if you have a Twitter account that you opened in 2016 and you haven't tweeted anything since 20 whatever, get rid of the Twitter account, okay? Twitter is a full-time job, but if you're going to do one and you do Twitter, do Twitter, right? And that's the way it is. So pick your poison and really
So let's get very granular there.
Sure.
I do have a Twitter account. How many times a day should I be posting on Twitter?
Twitter is a full-time job all day. Think of Twitter as you are in a bunch of text message chains all day.
Okay.
That's what it is.
Okay.
And you're just in the conversation all the time.
Instagram?
Instagram, once or twice,
Okay.
maybe 3 times a week.
And of course, the larger.
Let me just go back to Instagram.
Sure.
So the shtick with Instagram is the engagement hub more than any platform out there.
Yeah.
Okay? The hashtag game is strong in Instagram. The platform was built on hashtags.
Yep.
If you don't know about the Gary V $80 strategy, it works very well. So what that is it's
Love
90 posts a day times your 2 cents equals $1.80. All right? What that breaks down to is 10 hashtags that you are trying to be part of and get involved in, right? And under those 10 hashtags, be part of that conversation, like, comment, share, all the above,
Right.
in 9 different posts every day.
So follow those hashtags and
Also
use those
follow those hashtags.
Yeah.
So what
That's
you'll
the
do when you
key.
do a hashtag follow is that anybody that then posts under that hashtag, it appears in your feed as if you're following that person. Also, that strategy works very well on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has done an excellent job over the last 18 months integrating hashtags
Yes.
into the back end of the platform. Facebook, not so much. But understanding that engagement factor on that is huge as well. And then what does your Instagram look like, right? Is it like, market was up 14% today and whole
Again, you're missing the authenticity.
Again, I do my stuff completely different. My LinkedIn is all business, what's going on. And then my Instagram was a lot of that kind of content, but cleaned up a little bit. Nobody cares about my business dealings on Instagram. They just don't.
No.
So I have a background in video games. I was in the game industry for 10 years. Got a bunch of games under my belt for Sony and Nintendo. I like games. That's what I do. So my Instagram is just, here's a bunch of random games that I play. And people like that. It's a little
course they
insight
do.
into my personality. And that's what it is. Now on Instagram, I post once a week because my audience is just not there. But my content also gets reposted on Facebook, and that Instagram content does better on Facebook. But it's still working those 3 platforms.
And that's key to know where your audience is living,
Correct.
right? And as an advisor, if you are looking for the younger millennial client, you're not going to get them on Facebook maybe.
I'm telling you, TikTok has really changed the corner over the last 6 to 8 months during all the craziness, right? TikTok has become more of a baby YouTube for education more than ever.
Yep.
So if you want to create educational content and you don't want to make sets with cameras and the whole shebang and make it look pro, go to TikTok. And the best TikTok content is 12 seconds.
Yep.
People love fast cut stuff into it. Like stocks are confusing, all that stuff. If you're new, 101, and you want to explain to the younger Z generation and the young millennials on how everything's going, give them some insight on how it works. Like, I don't understand when you show me a chart and it's got 4 lines and what this means and what's the difference between the S&P 500 and what's a mutual fund. Like, just go to Basic 101
People get lost in
and
that.
keep it quick and simple. You'll build a good audience doing that.
Yeah.
But you have to continue to do that content. You can't be like, let's
Consistency.
go, and then 6 weeks later you haven't posted
No.
in 5 years.
Yeah.
No, again, it's not the set it and forget it mentality.
It's not. But I think for people that say, well, I don't work with that younger demographic. So, well, if you're thinking about, bringing that younger advisor in terms of succession planning,
You better get there.
Correct.
their people are going to be on that platform. So you have to figure out for your business.
Correct. And
How
I
to
think
navigate
you
that.
need to realize that this younger generation has a lot of money, right?
Yes.
Because the average user, about 23 to 26% of the average user on Instagram has between 10 and 100,000 followers. Once you get past that 10,000 mark, you are now becoming an influencer and doing product placements, right? Between 22 and 25% has between 100 and a million followers.
Yeah.
So more than 50% of the platform is over 10,000. And it's the same on TikTok too. TikTok's audience is huge. So identify yourself as, obviously if you're in your 60s and you're ready to go, then maybe TikTok's not the spot for you. So
Could be,
stick
you
with,
never
but,
know.
but you never know. But maybe go to Facebook and know your audience. So
we
like,
just had a wonderful conversation
who that
with
audience is.
Yeah.
a rather a mature advisor. There's no stopping him and his organization and
Great.
bringing on younger associates. So
Love it.
I would
adapt or die.
I would
is the name of
suspect
the
that
game.
that marketing group is on TikTok.
They should.
Probably.
Yeah, it's great.
I think that there's a little bit of an issue, I think, generationally, whereas, somebody who's 40 and up, sort of, you're on there, but it's like, well, that's not really like my spot, but that's where most people are going.
I'm a little over 40, and TikTok was always, oh gosh, that's a whole other level that
Well,
I
I
don't
don't
want
think
to
the
go
kids
there.
like that it was taken over by professionals. 'cause
No,
there are
probably
tons
not.
Of professionals
Tons.
on there.
Yeah,
So, and that's what it is. It's understanding what your strategy looks like
Correct.
from that perspective, right? And then going in more the external stuff is, again, dealing with that local small stuff is great.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could spend 10 grand and sponsor a bunch of stuff and be part of it. And yes, you can do chamber events, but if you go to a chamber event, how many bankers and FAs and all that are there?
there's
So
a little
all there is.
overflowing.
find the stuff that separates you from the pack. But you got to remember the social stuff doesn't cost any money. It just costs time. So
And the chamber, the chambers are a wonderful opportunity to meet other local organizations, networking, and getting the pulse of what's going on in the community.
Correct.
But if you are a sea of financial advisors or bankers, that may not help you.
well, I think the chambers are also really good to develop those two-way streets of opportunities that you can do, right? So if I'm an FA in the middle, and we all know the sweet spot, right? I got a lawyer that's writing wills, I got a property guy, I got a home inspector, I got this, I got that, and then I got a couple realtors that are working with me too because I want either young couples or couples that are selling a house and going down. So like that's a great way to build that, as I call it, the core six that are
Correct.
involved in your transaction. So every time that you meet with a client, you should be asking 5 or 6 questions that'll then open up the doors for somebody else. You know anybody that's buying or selling a house in 2021? Boom, talk to Steve. He's great. Great. Oh, well, you guys know that like 70% of people die without a will? What? Oh, you got to talk to Barb. She's the best. Like that's a great way for the chamber stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people are hesitant to say those things for whatever reason.
But if you've got a relationship with your client, look,
I understand.
If you've met with them once and now it's their first time back and now you're talking about what the portfolio looks like. But if my FA called me in, I've been with him for like 4 years, and he was like, hey, can I ask you a couple questions? Yeah. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, actually, yeah, here you go.
Right.
I'm helping him out because I like him.
Correct.
So,
So you mentioned a little bit of money, a little bit about money. What if someone doesn't have that $10,000 budget? You're a solopreneur. You are not going to be dumping $10,000 for your marketing efforts. Yes, social media.
Yeah.
What is a reasonable budget? $5,000 a year to sponsor the baseball team, put a few ads in the local newspaper.
yeah. Look, Facebook ads and things like that are cheap. You can do $100 a month in Facebook ads. The more you do, the better your reach, the better it is. That's great. It's understanding, you always got to start guerrilla, right? So how do you go guerrilla, right, in the beginning where it's still in, all the strings attached and everything's still in, like, the overseers are allowing it, but also understand that the guerrilla marketing mentality of, we used to do a lot of postcards, and you can throw free events and things like that, like team up with the library or build a relationship with someone that has like a catering hall so that you can do stuff and like, hey, I'm going to throw an event at your hall. I know that you charge $1,000. Can we maybe do $500? And I'm going to fill your place with like 30, 40 people, and I'll let you do a pitch. Like, that's the stuff where you really start to build. And then who does that person know, and that person know, and that person know? I mean, it's just, remember, low and slow is the name of the game. So, I mean, that's really what it is.
And I think maybe too for folks that either, one, you don't have the budget to do that online marketing, two, you've got that hesitation because you don't want to be in that vulnerable spot, just ease into it. Try it out, and look, if it's not for you to do a TikTok or something on Instagram, again, it's fine, right?
But you got to realize, if you don't have the budget, everything else is free to do.
Right.
So get involved in the conversation, post content, and if you don't want to be in front of the camera, post other people's stuff.
Right.
Right. But with all the competition, because let's face it, there's thousands of advisors. You could throw, I say it all the time, a dart at a map, and within your 20-mile radius,
everybody's
you've got hundreds, right? So how am I different? Am I losing out if I'm not online? In this day and age, am I losing out?
Especially having gone through what we just went through.
I think that it depends on what your client base looks like and how you're using your internal data, okay? So if you're really working your clients, learning who they are, doing surveys, finding out what that is, you can still kind of get away by working that organic, who they are, what they do, but at the same time, there's so many out there, you gotta give yourself that niche. And that's why the online presence is just another opportunity to personify yourself as the go-to person for this. Oh, I'm also an FA. Like, I think that's a big part of it. Like, I don't know if a lot of people are going to go onto websites and check out who you are. Maybe they are, but what they're going to do is they're going to comb through your social first.
Well,
I think they're going to look at everything.
They're going to look at your
I think,
website as a whole. What is your thinking, and little pivot here, about podcasting for an advisor?
I think it's great. I mean, again, it's a free medium that's out there. You can get on things like Anchor that'll write all your codes and put you on multiple different platforms all at the same time. But how are you separating yourself from the hundreds and hundreds of financial podcasts that are out there, right? To go back to the lawyer stuff, like, that's a great way to do it. Like, put that financial element into it, but also understand that your audience is X. And now what that does is it allows you to expand your reach from out of your area. Okay? So if you are the game guy or the beer person or the flower person, what you're doing is you're allowing your growth to expand. Okay? So now I might be in Arizona organically because this person knew this person, and their mom is a flower person that lives in Arizona that happens to be my perfect demographic. Oh, she's also part of a community of all these other people that are all in the same boat. So, with that I tell people on the podcast thing, because the podcast thing can be really overwhelming.
It can be.
Also a full-time job.
A full-time job. So the way that it works best for you as a person, because of time and craziness, you have to start with at least 4 in the pipe before you launch anything. And don't feel obligated to do stuff every week. Make seasons.
Yeah.
That's it. I do 8-episode seasons. I record all my stuff in the pipe. And then once you get all that, what you can do, if you have the time, you don't have to, grab snippets from one and tease the episode, and then do weekly episodes.
Love it.
And we've got all 8 already in the pipe. I'm done. I'm not stressed. Honestly, you could take a full week and do your whole season in a week.
You like
Great
Netflix?
advice.
Thank you, Ryan, so much. This has gone so quickly. It's such great information. We loved having you live.
Yeah?
Which,
I love being here. So.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to all of you for joining in. I'm sure that you've gotten some great information from Ryan on how you can best begin your marketing strategy and with the various things that work best for your organization. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Take care.